Welcome, everybody, to another edition of The Truth About Fantasy Football, the Grueling Truth Radio Network's weekly fantasy football show brought to you by Gridiron Mo. Gridiron Mo is a new interactive football app that lets you call what you think an offense or defense is going to call in a live NFL game and compare against others across the country. Check it out at gridironmo.com or thegruelingtruth.net. I'm your host for the weekly fantasy football show, Matt Andruscavage, and I'd like to introduce my first co-host, Oz Davis.
Howdy, folks. Nice to be here. And I won this week, so I got some chops. I got some weight, gravity this week, I think.
Now, you're referring to, of course,
my win over these. Yeah, it was I was in the Grueling Truth League. I played some joker named, My Ball, Zach Ertz. I smoked his ass. Yeah, it was great.
Good stuff. Well, why don't we bring in the other end of that riveting game, Aaron Zepnick.
Yeah, it's all-time low for me in fantasy football. I lost a guy that was raving about Farrell Cooper.
Yeah.
I'm still 7-2 though. What's your record, Oz?
Not that.
Not that. Leave it at that. That's actually what it says in the standings.
Right, yeah, it says N-T. Yeah, that's my win-loss. N-T.
Just get it incomplete.
I thought
incomplete. I like that. Or F+. I'll take an F+. Too. But I like incomplete.
Hey, Oz?
Yes.
Oz, I saw that N-T. I thought that stood for no threat until this week.
Yeah, no title. Yeah, that's me.
And I'd like to also welcome in LaDonna Williams. How's it going today?
I am great. How are you?
Doing good. So I guess you had said you went 2-2 this week?
Yeah. I'm sad.
Still a little lethargic
I'm so sad. I'm so sad because it was my money league that I lost by 2 points in.
Oh.
And yeah. And what who she had left was LaShawn McCoy. What I had left was Kristen Michael and Seattle's defense. So I should have actually won that game, but then Seattle's defense decided, hey, let's let everybody just run down the field and then score, and then their running backs had, 7 yards?
Well, Richard Sherman prevented a touchdown by interfering with the guy in the last play. That wasn't called, so you got that.
I was kind of actually rooting for that, but it happened. I didn't want him to get hurt or hit nobody, but I was hoping that they didn't score. I was acting like I was at Buffalo Wild Wings.
You ain't trying.
Yeah, I was acting like I was at Buffalo Wild Wings hitting the button, on those commercials, hoping that he was going to miss. But I lost by 2 points.
So all in all, everybody had some good weeks, some bad. I went 2-0. I was pretty happy. So my household was pretty happy this week. But we had a lot of studs and duds happen. I saw a number of things that I was pleased with, and definitely a few things that would have liked to have seen differently. But Aaron, what did you see this week for studs and duds, or did you even get to really see anything with all the beer you were drinking through that Packer game?
Yeah, I actually was watching. I was watching a lot of the other games. So let's just say I remember some of those. Some studs this week. Matt Ryan actually did me in Thursday night. I played against him in one league. He had a really nice night. I would call him a stud. Drew Brees had a good game again. Quarterbacks-wise, there's quite a few here. Russell Wilson had 29 points in the format that I'm in. On the other hand, duds, Carson Wentz, I expected much better numbers out of him. I think he had 21. Most quarterbacks scored in the upper 20s this week, if not 30 or more. Running backs, it pains me to say this, but Latavius Murray is the guy that
yes.
for losing for, and that's kind of a first for him this year. as Oz will tell you, he has not had that good of a year. He's been banged up.
I was just going to warn everybody that this stud label on Latavius Murray is extremely temporary, and it will wear off in about 6 days. So, do not be considering him a stud next week.
So Latavius Murray, nice week for him. Frank Gore, another 2-touchdown performance. Melvin Gordon is on my team against Oz, and in that league, and he's been an absolute stud all year.
He's an animal. Yeah.
This is the guy that didn't score 1 touchdown last year rushing.
Yeah, where was the guy on my fantasy team last year? Where was I'm one of these people who drafted him high last year, figuring he was going to get the bulk of San Diego's carries last year. And, like I told you guys in the preseason, I was still waiting for him to score a touchdown for me. Bam. This year, what has he got, like 71 touchdowns this season? I mean,
he's got enough for me to be
never draft a rookie.
So, Duds, Christine Michael, as LaDonna pointed to, at running back. Isaiah Crowell, I expected him to actually put up some numbers this week. I had him in one of my FanDuel leagues, and I know Dallas's defense has been pretty good, but Crowell's been a solid fantasy player for the Browns. If there's been any solid players, it's been Pryor or Crowell, and they kind of take turns. So, Jay Ajayi, another stud. He's been pretty solid. He had the 2 200-yard games back-to-back, had a bye week, and came back and had another, I think, 19 points for me this week. Theo Riddick back, had 70-some yards rushing, and not a huge performance, but, he got double digits, and out of an RB2, that's about what you expect. Studs for receivers, Mike Evans, Julio Jones, LaDonna, great pick on Julio Jones last week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He always doubts me. Like, I think every time he doubts me, that guy shines on Sunday or Thursday.
Absolutely. The other guy I thought that had a really, really good week at receiver was my mind just went blank. Hold on. I gotta find my notes here.
Well, there are definitely a few.
There's a few. Mike Evans.
Allen Robinson had a good week this week for a change.
Yeah, that was nice. Mike Evans.
I said Mike
Huge
Evans.
Week.
Yeah.
God, I keep clicking on the same
Cole
page.
Beasley.
Cole Beasley was solid again. Yeah, 6 for 56 and a touchdown. Duds, Alan Hearns had a big fat 0. Des Bryant had 1.
Hearns had the concussion, I think, right?
Yeah. He was banged up. Who was the other guy that had a really good week? I can't think now. Marvin Jones was another dud. He had 0, 1 catch for 5 yards. I know they're playing Minnesota, but I did not expect that. I know we talked about that last week. If there was one Lion to start, it would probably be Tate or Jones, and Tate was the better pick. He scored the touchdown at the end of the game. So, pretty hum-ho week. Jimmy Graham got more involved last night, it seemed like. My brother in another league actually picked up Hooper from Atlanta and started him, and he had 10 points. So that was like a diamond in the rough pickup. Dem Thomas, also another dud, 5 points. He's not had the targets and the catches this year for Denver, and I know Simeon's a rookie quarterback, but Dem Thomas is a top 5, top 7 talent in the league. He's a big physical receiver you expect big numbers out of, and he really did not do too much all year, really. So that's about all I got for studs and duds. You guys feel free to chime in.
Yeah, one stud I was not expecting, and Mark Ingram, 158 yards,
took mine.
and 2 touchdowns.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
I was expecting it. I thought he was going to get even more yardage on my team.
I was expecting Tim Hightower. I was expecting Tim Hightower to go off not Mark Ingram. Because they were talking about running back by
80-yard run.
Yeah, they were talking about running back by committee, and they were speaking that Hightower is going to probably get more of the snaps. Well, that didn't happen.
You reminded me who my other stud receiver was that Oz touched on last week, top waiver wire guy, that Michael Thomas from New Orleans. Sorry, that's the guy. I couldn't think of his name, and I'm like, I know it's not Cooks or Snead, it's the other guy.
I think Thomas has the most receptions and the most targets on the Saints.
I believe that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, he definitely has the most receptions, probably has the most targets. Yeah, unquestionably, yeah. That's what I was saying last week. It's just like, wait a second. You ever hear of this guy? He plays for the Saints. He's the number one receiver on the Saints. Yeah.
Right.
I believe it. Sure.
I can give you another dud. Travis Benjamin, man.
Tell me about it.
He was going to do more this year.
Something told me to
the year he had in Cleveland. Yeah, I mean, I caught him off my team. My wife was, she didn't tell me she started him. I would have told her, don't do it. But, yeah, that was, he just isn't, I don't think he's healthy, but still, after the year he had last, I thought he was going to have a big year in San Diego.
This is the problem. I had no choice. I had way too many guys on the waiver wire. I had guys like LeGarrette Blount on the waiver wire and whatnot. So I had to play him, and I heard all the podcasts. I had read all the information saying, he's got a calf injury or some such. And I didn't want to play him, but I had to. And sure enough, like 1.25 in Yahoo format or whatever. So
LeGarrette Blount?
Can we?
No, Benjamin. Travis Benjamin.
Oh, Benjamin.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is I had a bunch of guys on bye that I might have played in flex.
Oh, on bye. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so I had to go with Benjamin, and I didn't want to, but I had to. There was nobody on waiver, so I got about 1.25 on him, and thus lost in my Yahoo league because of it. So
another.
Can we talk about Todd Gurley?
Do I have to? He makes me so sad.
Like, when do we give up on him?
Oh.
When I told Oz in the preseason not to draft him high. Did I not tell you, though, that David Johnson and even the other, the receivers, Brown and Jones, I would not pick Gurley in the top 10.
Yeah, okay. Hindsight is 20/20, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Gurley had to go in the top 10. I mean, he's doing just as good as Devontae Freeman.
I mean,
is he?
Devontae Freeman has to be doing way better.
Yeah,
way better? Yeah. I don't know.
I'm going to look at.
I don't.
Another
Gurley's had a couple of.
I'm looking this up. Is Jarvis Landry?
Yeah, he's not performing.
Not at all, and I'm very disappointed because I have him in 2 leagues. But I'm just looking up the numbers here. Who was the other guy? Devontae Freeman, Gurley. I don't even know who has him in our league.
Because Devontae Freeman right now has 620 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Freeman's got 112 points to Todd Gurley's 75.
Well, and what kind of a league is that?
It's just a standard 10, 1 point per 10 yards and.
Well, yeah, if you go PPR, Gurley's better.
He's worth a little bit more lately.
He's definitely worth more in PPR leagues if he gets receptions. But in standard leagues, right now Gurley's killing you if you have him in a standard league. That's not good.
Yeah.
But the Freeman, because Coleman's still hurt, he's still getting yards from receiving. He's got right now for the year 220 yards and 2 touchdowns receiving, which isn't bad.
No, that's not bad.
And he's got
860 all-purpose yards. That's great. That's nice. That's a good stat line.
He's got 28 catches as well, Freeman does.
Yeah.
Wow. Nice.
And that's with sharing with Evan Coleman. Imagine if Coleman wasn't there or he was out all year. Gurley's the only guy carrying the rock, but he's facing 9-man fronts.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Yeah,
he's got no health.
And this is why, and this is why offensive lines need to be in fantasy football. I got a stud and a dud for you. Here's a stud, and these I think are both important going forward, but that just gives me an excuse to talk more. Mike Wallace had a good day, 124 yards, touchdown.
Yep.
This is his 2 weeks ago he had 96 yards. The week after that, 100 plus. This week, 124. So he's getting a lot of carries. He's getting a lot of yards lately. Going forward, he's going to be a stud too, I think. And then for dud, has anyone noticed how shoddy the Broncos' offense looks now that they have no run game? I think that Emmanuel Sanders, I don't know if he was brought up, but he's a guy that's definitely suffering because of this. You know, the cliche, you got to use the run to set up the pass. Well, Sanders is not getting any passes set up for him because they have no run game. And he scored, I forget how much. What did he score? 4.7 this week in the flea flicker format. He scored 6.7 last week. This guy's benchable. I got 5 good receivers. I'm benching him next week.
Yeah, they take a lot of shots
agree.
on the field to Emmanuel Sanders. They use Dem Thomas for more of the intermediate routes. And they just have not been connecting on the longer routes.
Nope.
Simeon does not throw a good deep ball. And like you said, with no C.J. Anderson, Devontae Booker has been average at best.
At best.
Yeah, they have not sparked offensively. And, look, Denver's had a pretty tough schedule here. They played Atlanta. They played San Diego, who's actually a pretty good team. I know their defense is not really their strong suit. But now they played Oakland. They've had some pretty tough opponents lately. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if they can get back on track with the running game. And I have Booker as like my 4th running back in one league, so it doesn't hurt me too much. But if I do need to play him in a bye week, if somebody else is banged up, that kind of scares me.
Yeah, as bizarre as it sounds, in my opinion, there's almost no Broncos that are in the number 1 spot right now from the offense. None.
I can't imagine anybody really seriously wanting to play anyone from Denver right now on their offense.
Yeah.
I don't even think I have them. Yeah, I don't even think I have any of them besides their defense. I'm like looking at my.
There you go.
My blog.
I
have their defense. You know what? I actually mentioned them. I mentioned the receivers. The only reason I mentioned the receivers this week is because they're playing New Orleans. They're not in my top 10, but I mentioned the receivers. They should actually do good against New Orleans, whose defense is not there.
Yeah. They could get a lot of points by default, or they could put up, 14 or 10.
Yeah.
I just have no faith in this Denver offense right now. I got less faith in this offense than I do in like Green Bay's offense at this point. So,
yeah, it's when you don't have a run game, it really hurts you.
Yeah.
In this league, you got to have some kind of running game to take the pressure off your passing game. So that kind of leads us into this is week 10 now. Boy, the season is streaming by. Week 10. Who to start and who to sit. I don't have a lot this week. I'm sure you guys can kind of fill in the blanks. But here's some of the guys that I thought would be valuable to start. I think Carson Wentz against Atlanta at home isn't a bad play. Atlanta's defense it's spotty. I think they're better in the dome. Wentz and the Eagles need to bounce back. I think this would be a solid time. I'm not saying he's going to get 35 points, but again, we still got bye week issues that we're all kind of working through. I think Wentz is a solid play. I got to say, I don't know if I'll call him my half dud for last week, and that would be Nick Foles. I picked him up. We had a long talk about Nick Foles, and I got that one nice little touchdown, and then I'm waiting, and not much happened. It was kind of painful, but at least I got 9 points out of them.
I actually have Carson Wentz to not be played this week.
You don't like him this week, okay? I found in 3 different sources that liked him, I personally like the match against Atlanta only because it's at home. If this is in the Georgia Dome, I'm totally with you. I don't like him, but
look what Atlanta did. But look what Atlanta defense did to Denver in Denver.
Well, I think Wentz is a little better than Simeon, or
Simeon actually didn't play that game though either.
Their defense started stepping up that game, and then their defense got better when they played San Diego in San Diego. Their offense choked, not their defense.
Yeah,
each
Green
week
Bay's
their defense has
been very good, and they torched Atlanta.
So I actually have the opposite. Just because,
to me, Atlanta's offense to me is definitely their strong suit. You watch them, they're stacked offensively. But when I watch them on defense, to me they're still very young. I don't see a real leader. They're just kind of one of these team defenses that's kind of finding itself. I think they're kind of vulnerable here and there. I don't think they're super consistently shutting teams down. I don't know. I guess like I said, I'm not saying Carson Wentz is going to be like a 35-pointer, but I think 20 points in a standard PPR league is definitely doable. I really like Marcus Mariota this week against Green Bay. Pretty much all the Tennessee Titans. DeMarco Murray, Rashard Matthews, Delaney Walker, all those guys I think are very viable this week. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I like Jordan Howard this week against Tampa. I thought Jordan Howard played really well against Minnesota, and I think Tampa Bay is not as good as them, and Jordan Howard is up and coming. Jonathan Stewart against the Chiefs in Carolina. Carolina is, I don't know what's going on with Cam, but he's taking a lot of hits. But I think Jonathan Stewart is still a solid back. Kansas City seems to, again, be kind of spotty on the defense. Sometimes they shut teams down like Denver. Other times they're a little average, especially on the road.
Kansas City, I believe, is number one in turnovers. I believe.
Yes, they are. They have the best turnover ratio in the league.
Yes, and they have the most turnovers generated. They have the most interceptions and the most fumbles, I believe. In any event, they have the most cumulative turnovers, I believe.
Yeah,
they're number one.
That is true.
You want to talk about no respect for a team? I know this is not fantasy related, but if I were to tell you that there's one team that's won 17 out of their last 20 games, who would you think it was?
Yeah, I know. I heard this one recently. Yeah, sure, the Chiefs. But aren't two of those losses are to the Patriots, right?
Yes.
I think so. Yeah.
So I think it's amazing how they get no respect and they just keep going out and winning. Andy Reid, talk about flying under the radar. They got some talent at receiver, and they spread the ball around. If Alex Smith can be healthy, look, Chris Conley, while they're not great fantasy options, Chris Conley and Tyreek Hill are both really speedy receivers that I think can be dangerous matchup-wise.
Right. Especially if they could get some consistent quarterback play, I think one or two of those receivers could be worth something in fantasy. But yeah, I don't know how you start a guy like Conley, and then Macklin got a big 0. I don't know if he got. Did he get hurt, or was he just covered all day?
He got hurt.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, because I just saw my friend had him. He's like, Macklin's got nothing. I'm like, well, I told you not to play him. I like pretty much every Arizona Cardinal this week against the Niners. Obviously, David Johnson and Fitzgerald. But if I'm going to pick one of their other receivers, the guy that seems to be getting the most looks and the most targets is J.J. Nelson. I'd go with him as either like a wide receiver 2 or maybe even a flex position. I like J.J. Nelson against the Niners in Arizona. And I'll save my defensive one for after Oz is done. I just got 3 sits. I'm iffy on this one, but because they're playing Denver, I really don't know if I like Drew Brees this week. I know he's at home, and I'm usually a proponent of Drew Brees when he's at home, but I don't know. Denver coming off this loss, I think they're going to be going all out on the defense. Is Talib back yet?
I haven't got an update yet. He wasn't there last week, but I haven't gotten an update. if he was going to be back, what was going on.
So I don't know how you guys feel about Drew Brees, but I'd be a little leery. If I had somebody else, I might be more apt to start him. I don't know if I like Kirk Cousins this week against Minnesota. Minnesota, to me, they got to get it together. I don't know that they're giving up a lot, yardage-wise against their opponents lately. And I also don't really like LeGarrette Blount this week against Seattle. And I'm iffy on that. I can see Belichick coming up with a way to get him the ball and surprise everybody, but it's just really hard for me to like a running back against Seattle.
Aren't they coming off the bye? Aren't they coming off the bye?
They are.
Patriots? Well,
yeah, I mean, I think they'll beat Seattle.
I'll take LeGarrette Blount against Seattle.
Okay. I think they'll beat Seattle. Because, Belichick has these ways of, beating you by, death by 1,000 paper cuts. But I'm not sure you're going to get a lot of points off of a group of paper cuts.
I don't know but I'm going to agree with Oz on Blunt here. Look, Seattle's on 6 days rest. 6 days in between games. They're on a short week. True. They're going to Foxborough with Brady healthy. I think the pass will set up the run, and I think that New England's offensive line is actually a little bit underrated. I think that once they get a lead, they know how to grind on you. And
if they get a lead, then I think you're probably onto something there. But I don't know.
And I think they will
I'm a little leery about it.
Against Seattle this season, they probably will. The only thing in Seattle's favor is completely abstract, and that is this. They always turn it on in the second half of the season. Perhaps this is the statement game. Well, they say, yes, we're here. We're going to compete for the NFC, championship. That's it. If you want to go with that, okay, don't play your Patriots. But otherwise you do. Because, look, you talk about death of 1,000 cuts. Okay, look what happened last time they played. Brady has 4 touchdowns to 4 different receivers. Gronk has a monster game, plus Blount runs one in. There you go. All of a sudden they're all viable fantasy plays. Now, against Seattle, they're not going to score 5 touchdowns, but they'll probably get 3.
The guy that I sit if I'm sitting a Patriot is Julian Edelman.
Yeah.
I wouldn't start any Patriot receivers. Tom Brady started around between Hogan, Amendola, and Edelman all year. The one guy you have to start is Gronk. He's still the best tight end in the game, and I think that's the one comfort blanket that Brady has. The security blanket is Gronk. Edelman's also a security blanket, but I think Earl Thomas will be on him a lot in the slot. Earl Thomas, size-wise matches up with him the best. Cam Chancellor's hurt, so I would suspect that they'll have to play a little bit of coverage matchups. See who can cover Gronk, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Richard Sherman on Gronk. He's a physical corner, and
that's what I was thinking today. That's
very possible.
Yep, is that.
So you could put Jeremy Lane on one of those shorter receivers, and I think this really could actually open up a lot for Martellus Bennett, because if Richard Sherman's probably their best option for Gronk, and I think you're right about Earl Thomas, but that leaves really nobody to cover Martellus Bennett.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying start with Martellus Bennett, but I guess I just see Belichick finding ways through the defense to score just enough points to win. But I just don't know fantasy-wise, other than Brady and Gronk, I just don't really know where to go with this.
I think if you have Blount, and I do, on my Yahoo team, I think you start him. I mean, because he's a top 10 fantasy running back this year. I mean, you just have to start him. I mean, you just plug and play with this guy. I mean, you can't worry about the opponent. I think it's like having Julio Jones. You're not ever going to seriously consider benching Jones. It doesn't matter who they're playing. It doesn't matter if they're playing the 85 Bears. You're gonna start him.
It'd be a neat trick to play the 85 Bears this year.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. Time travel. It'd be cool.
I'm debating because I have Blount.
When is Deion Lewis prepared to come off the PUP list? Because that's the one guy I think that would take some time away from Blunt. James White's kind of filled that role, but not very well. He's been a part of the offense, but not as big of a part as Dion Lewis was last year.
Yeah.
I think that Dion Lewis, if he comes back this week, and I think he is coming back this week, I picked him up in one of my leagues, and if he comes back, he can do it all. He can catch it out of the backfield. He can run between the tackles. They really like him. And to save Blunt and have that 1-2 punch, I think they're going to have to get him some work. And in a game like this, I think he is the better matchup versus Seattle.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you just look at the Patriots are pretty much going to use. It's going to be all hands on deck. I can see each guy getting 2 catches, but Bennett could be the guy that breaks out. But I don't know if you can predict that well enough to start.
Right. Yeah, Bennett.
Would you start Michael against New England?
Christine Michael? Yeah, I don't see really a real problem with that. I don't know that New England's defense is super stout.
I have a problem with
shut
that.
Them down.
I have a problem with that.
Do you play against him or something?
Can I say it? No. No. Actually, I was going to bring this up later, but the word is that Thomas Rawls may be coming back this week.
Okay.
Thomas.
I was wondering when that was going to happen.
Yeah, I was going to bring. Well, they were talking about it last week. It seems like all signs point to go this week. I don't know that he's going to get a lot of work, but I did want to bring it up because, for example, he is available in 70% of Yahoo leagues. So now is the time to pick him up. Those of you who gave up on him earlier in the season, because if he doesn't play this week against the Patriots or he plays sparingly, he will be in the future. Christine Michael's value, I think, is limited because I've read stuff from the Post-Intelligencer in Seattle that was talking about, the beat reporter there was talking about how, his team sources told him that Rawls is going to be a big part of this offense when he does come back.
Hold on, let me stop you, Oz. I'm sorry.
Go. That was it. Go.
In the rotoballer.com on Flea Flicker, in the recent news, Rawls' return from a left leg injury was pushed back another week with his earliest return now November 20th against the Eagles.
Okay.
Woo-hoo!
All right, well, there you go. Then Christine Michael is good.
Yeah, I think if Michael is the feature back, I think he's good for at least 15 points in PPR leagues.
Yeah, because right now I have Christian Michaels, and he's projected at 13 in my Yahoo league.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who else do you
he's
have?
Still a viable back.
This league, I just picked up McKinnon because I kind of needed another reliable running back, and because they're playing Washington, I looked at the matchup, not so much at the points.
Wow.
But
good luck with that,
Michael.
Oh, I'm playing 3 running backs this week.
Who else are you playing?
I'm playing David Johnson, Michael, and McKinnon.
Okay.
And then my wide receivers are Des Bryant and Julio Jones, and I have Matt Ryan. I'm not playing a tight end this week.
Who do you have on your bench?
Golden Tate's on a bye. I have Kelley versus Carolina, Blunt, Cole Beasley, Barnage versus Baltimore, and Big Ben versus Dallas.
I would almost
Kelsey.
start Blunt over Christine Michael.
Yeah.
He's Blunt right now is projected 5 points.
Yeah.
Blunt is going to score a touchdown. Michael might not. Blunt will.
I'm waiting to see if his numbers increase over the week.
I wonder why they're so low. Well, what's the write-up on your site? You're talking about Yahoo.
Well, the thing is I think most sites see New England's offensive line getting beat by Seattle's defense, and
yep.
I tend to agree overall. Fantasy-wise, I just don't see Blunt doing one of his 90-yard 2-touchdown days.
No, it'll be
I played McCoy.
30 yards and maybe a touchdown.
Yeah. He might not get that, but Matt, Oz's point before is Blunt's a top 10, top 15 at worst back. You can't bench him over a guy that just had 2 points.
Yeah. What am I going to do? Start Matt Andruscavage?
But think about it, McCoy, because I see what you're saying, because McCoy had 120 yards on him, and he was just coming off an injury, so I understand where you guys are coming from. I don't know why he's ranked so low either.
And
yeah, I don't get the projected points.
LeGarrette Blount's not going to break a big 80-yard run, most likely, but he is a bruiser, and that's what they're going to need to do against Seattle is they're going to have to beat him up. And their run defense is what's suspect for Seattle. Their pass defense is strong, but their run defense has always been their Achilles heel. I don't think their run defense on the road is near as good as it is at home.
That is true. They are traveling to Foxborough on a short week. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you guys could be right about this. If it was me, if I had another option, I'd probably go the other option. But if you don't, you know, over Jarek, if I'm going LeGarrette Blount against Jarek McKinnon, you go Blount. But if I've got Blount against
one of those guys, and then if you have an option to put Cole Beasley in as your flex instead of one of those guys, I do that as well.
Yeah, Cole Beasley. When you said you have Beasley, I think he's going to get more than Dez.
Yeah, he did that to me last week. Let's not talk about it.
It was personal.
It got real personal. But it was okay because I totally forgot that I had Golden Tate in. And he did very well for me.
Nice.
He did very, very well for me, and I totally forgot that I had him in. I didn't know I knew I didn't have Kelsey in, and which thank God I didn't, since he wanted to throw rags at officials.
Yeah, I was wondering, can I play him as a referee this year?
We need to have fantasy referees when the world calls. They help.
Ed Hockley.
I want to start a league. I want to be able to start a league. If your player gets hurt in the first quarter, you could be able to switch him out.
Yeah, I think
that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
We used to have that in our league back when it was still on paper. Where if you had a player and he got hurt, his backup came in, you got their points.
Oh, that's interesting, too.
As long as nobody else had him. So let's say you had Lacey and Starks. If Lacey got hurt and somebody else had Starks in their starting lineup, you didn't get the points. So we had guys that would start the backups just to screw the guy in case the guy got hurt. It was actually quite fun.
Well, Oz, what do you got for streaming defenses this week?
Streaming defenses, okay. Actually, can I talk some waiver wire real quick?
Sure.
I got a couple of other waiver wires for you real quick. Quarterback. How about Joe Flacco? I mean, like, for example, if you have Derek Carr, if Derek Carr's your starter, try and get Flacco. Flacco is out there. Now, I know he's burned folks a lot in the past, and this is why he's still out there in 75% of Yahoo leagues. But they're playing Cleveland. So is mine.
Exactly.
They're playing Cleveland. Pick him up. If you're one of the buy quarterbacks this week, pick up Joe Flacco off a waiver.
I'm going to challenge that, too. Cleveland's pass defense is not that bad. They have.
Well, okay, neither is Flacco. Yeah,
well, I'm just
Flacco's
saying,
not that bad.
Baltimore's going to beat Cleveland on the ground, and they're not going to have to throw. He'll probably end up with 176 yards and 2 touchdowns. But I would think that if you have Terrence West this week, or even who's their other running back?
Duke.
Yeah, Duke Johnson.
Oh,
no.
Okay.
No, that's for the Browns. I'm sorry.
Browns back.
Who is the other running back for them?
Anyway, if you have Terrence West, you start him this week. I don't think Baltimore's pass offense is that good. Mike Wallace breaks a big one, and, that's where Flacco gets most of his stats. But he's not been consistently putting up 25 points.
I don't know. If you want to, if you want to go Nick Foles, that's cool, I guess.
I wouldn't go Nick Foles, but there's other guys out there like Jameis Winston. I think will have a bigger game against Chicago. Chicago's secondary is very suspect. I would think that Jameis Winston is available in a lot of leagues.
Well, I'm going to stick with Flacco. Jamias may not be a bad pickup, but I don't know. He's been driving me crazy personally, so I personally would not pick him up in a fantasy league because he would make me even crazier. At running back, I wanted to talk about Rob Kelley, who's taken over the starting position in Washington. He's out there in 70% of Yahoo leagues, and Washington probably will be running the ball more often as the year goes on. And I thought it was interesting that, he stole this job from Matt Jones. Did Matt Jones have, the fastest fantasy trajectory of all time? I mean, this guy was, nobody in week 1. And then after about week 3 or 4, people were like, you got to pick this guy up. He's got to be on your team. And now he's back on the waiver wire, basically.
But isn't he hurt?
He was hurt last game, and then they had a bye. So
right. I
think Matt Jones is still the starter.
This week, Robert Kelley is going to be getting carries from what I read.
But but what I've been seeing lately is that Kelley has Wally pipped him right out of a job. So I like him as a pickup on waiver, whether short term or medium term. Anyway, I mean, if you're desperate, go for it, because you got to be desperate at this point because there ain't too many running backs out there at this point. Let's see. At wide receiver, you talked about Rashard Matthews before. I'm loving him. I picked him up a few weeks ago. He's still out there in 68% of leagues. Steve Smith Jr., Steve Smith Sr., you talked about before how you don't like the Ravens wide receivers this week, so I won't belabor that point. I thought he was kind of an intriguing possibility. At tight end, how about Zach Miller? Zach Miller is still out there in about half the Yahoo leagues now. Here's a guy. You were talking about reception leaders before. Check this out, Matt. You're going to like this. He's number 4 in targets in the league.
Zach Miller's having a good year.
Yeah,
I knew he was up there, but
he's having a hell of a
year. First couple of weeks of the year, I really didn't think Zach Miller was going to have that big of an impact, but as the weeks kind of piled on, this guy's really getting a lot of yardage, a lot of receptions.
How about it? And Jay Cutler is back, and he particularly blossomed under Jay Cutler. I mean, I remember when Zach first came up with the Raiders, and they were using him in blocking situations only. And, I mean, this guy has turned into, a real ball catcher, and Jay Cutler is his favorite quarterback and vice versa. So I'm liking Zach Miller. I'm liking to pick up Zach Miller, especially since Zach Ertz is getting, dropped in so many leagues so rapidly. In any case, let's talk defenses. I got a couple of interesting, fun choices for you this week. I think the obvious choices a lot of people have, I think the Chiefs are a good play this week. I think that who else do I have here? Hold on just a second. I think that I don't know what I think. Hold on.
I have the Jets versus the Rams. I'll help you out.
Right. This was my main pick, is that
if
you can pick up either one of these defenses off the waiver wire, do it. This over-under on this game is 39.5 points. That's really low, so they're expecting a very few points in this game. Lately, the Rams have been turning it over like crazy. I think they've had 7 in the past 2 games combined, and of course the Jets are number 1 in turnovers in the league. So either one of these defenses, I think, is your streaming defense play this week. I've got nobody else. Oh, yes, my other obvious pick is, of course, the Denver Broncos. Play the Broncos or the Chiefs if you have them. I know you do. Otherwise, pick up the Rams or the Jets. Either one of them.
I've got one. Okay. I like Washington this week because the Vikings are definitely struggling to put up points. On the road against Washington, I can see Washington holding them to the over-under can't be really high on this game. I can see Washington.
No, I think it's around 42.
Well, that's not terribly high. I can see them holding Minnesota 17 points or less. I don't know if they're going to have a really good day. They just seem to be struggling to me.
It's a good call.
That'd be mine. Does anybody else have any final defense, waiver wires, starts or sits? We got a couple more minutes, so we got to get to our next show. Anybody got anything else?
I have a couple tight ends. I have Jason Witten. Yes, he had a monster game last week, and I think that woke him up. Yes, he's been like there and then kind of hidden. I think this game he's going to do well. Another person, I'm going to start doing like a couple bold picks because when I've been doing bold picks, they actually almost come true. So my bold pick, which isn't really bold, but Lamar Miller is going to score another touchdown, and he's going to have a 100-yard game against Jacksonville.
No, that's
kind of bold. That's kind of
bold.
I think Lamar Miller definitely thrives coming off a bye week against Jacksonville. No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Sit T.Y. Hilton this week. He has a bye.
He used up all his yardage against Green Bay for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
He actually didn't have that great of a game. He only had, I think, 8 points in my flea flicker format, so non-PPR, but 80 yards. I mean, it was a big catch at the end that sealed the fate, but he was kind of quiet. It was a quiet, 6 catches for 88 yards or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm. Did he score?
No.
Okay, he didn't score.
Moncrief scored.
Moncrief's the guy that scored. Okay, right before the half.
I also like Cameron Brate this week versus Chicago for Tampa Bay. And then one of my other tips was Houston tight end. I'm not even going to try to say his last name, but it starts with the F, ends with a Z.
Fedorowicz.
Yes, I have him starting. I actually said he has a great matchup. I actually like him this week.
A guy that I like that I actually did DraftKings lineup with the receiver from Chicago, Cameron Meredith.
Yeah.
I think he will have a big week this week.
Yeah, he's a good receiver. He had a couple of really good games even with Cutler out. He's not bad. He's been a little up and down lately with the injury to Brian Hoyer and now with Cutler back. But I agree. I think he's with Cutler back. If he can play anything like he did against Minnesota, Chicago's got a couple of guys that could definitely be good fantasy options.
How about Matt Forte? We haven't really talked about him. Still doing it at his age, just like Frank Gore. Another guy that I think you play this week. He just always seems to break my back.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with playing Matt Forte. I think he's still good for a good solid 20 in PPR leagues, especially this week against the Rams. I don't think the Rams totally shut him down. I don't know. I think he'd have to score a touchdown to go get that 20. I don't think he's going to get a lot of yards, but I think he's a viable option.
I agree.
Well, we got to kind of get off the air here. We got another show getting set to get underway, so we'll be back next week for another episode of the Truth About Fantasy Football. So for LaDonna Williams, Oz Davis, Aaron Zepnick, I'm Matt Andruscavage. You've been listening to the Grueling Truth Radio Network, where the legends speak.